another physics reaction video. I think this is number 104. I haven't gone full screen yet because I wanted to show you what this person did. I haven't actually watched any of these yet, but I just love these time codes. So you can actually build them into YouTube. I actually don't know how to do that. But I think this is also super useful. So let's see, it looks like this is a review session. So what would be fun to look at? How about, let's go to 1 hour 55. Let's go to number 5, 1 hour 26 minutes. So 1 hour 26 minutes. And how many seconds? Okay, that'll be close enough. All right, so let's go to it here.
So, 5.
Cool background sounds.
So we need to analyze this circuit. And I'm thinking, which way should I draw it?
Okay, so right away, something really, really interesting. First of all, cool classroom. So looks like some of the chairs are bolted and some are rolling. I don't understand that. Let's see, we got 3 whiteboards at least. That's cool. 2 screens, not using them right now. Interesting ability to switch stuff, so that's cool. This scares me. I'm going to keep my eye on this throughout this whole video. I'm just worried he's going to trip. But did you hear what he said? He said, okay, let's do number 5. Who knows what number 5 is? And right away he pauses and he says, well, I'm not sure which way to do this. So the question always is, how valuable is it to show that to your students? It seems like it is valuable. It can be a little performative. It can be like, oh, I'm going to pretend like I don't know how to do this. But my guess is he's just trying to think not how to solve it, but how best to help the students learn it as we prepare for an exam. Over here, I'm guessing is just almost like a cheat sheet for the exam, although maybe these are problems that he was working. I'm not sure. Anyways, let's see how it goes.
Top. Okay, let me draw it from the top to the bottom. Right? So my circuits are going to be in the middle, and then I'm going to write on the left, on the right, and on the left side. So equivalent resistance.
So this must be some post-processing, right? So he must have switched camera views after the fact. Or maybe there's like a director doing this. I think both views are great. You definitely see him better in the other view, but this is definitely the better way to see the work that's being done. I'm not sure if it's different mics or not. Let's see if the sound is any different. I don't think so.
So first, there is a battery, then there is a resistor over here, then next resistor here, then 2 more. Let me connect them like this.
So this is a really, really famous structure because with the exception of this, can you see my mouse? With the exception of this resistor here, this construction down here is something that the physics education research community has, I don't know, studied a bunch, right? And so there's a whole bunch of really great peer instruction or think, pair, share questions, clicker questions about putting a switch right here and asking the question, let's imagine these are all light bulbs and you open the switch, what happens to the brightness of the other two? And so there's just a ton of conceptual ideas built into this, but I think what he's doing now is actually calculating the equivalent resistance of this. And so my guess is, I'm just going to make a guess here. He's going to smash these 2 together and then all 3 of these together. If he were to smash these 2 together and then to do these and then put these 2 together, I actually think that's one extra step. But of course, there's nothing wrong with that. So I also find it interesting just the way that he drew it. And I'd love to compare and contrast that to drawing it so that this line comes down over here and then a line goes up and then splits, right? It seems like when I work with students that they see a difference there, right? So thinking of these 2 as combined as a thing that current has to flow through, as opposed to the way he's drawn it, which is that there's this floor down here and there's just 2 different ways to get to the floor. So I'm curious to see how he describes that and what his order is.
Oh, it's 2. These wires are too short. It doesn't look good.
Interesting.
So now values. So let's say delta V of the battery is 24 volts. Then R1, R2, R3, and don't laugh, R5.
So honestly, what the reason I paused was because it's strange. When I'm making up problems, I always number the resistors from the top of the battery. So I would have gone R1, R2, and then probably 3 and 4 just gone left and right. Of course, it doesn't matter. But then I laughed because we skipped a number. So what happened to R4? Maybe there's another one coming in, but it's also maybe a moment to say, look, you can call these things whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Just get yourself set up and stay consistent with your structure.
It's still mysterious. When I was writing down, preparing this problem, I think in the previous year, right? For mysterious reason, R4 was missing, and then I decided, okay, so let it be. Yeah. So that's why I told you don't R4.
That's great.
It's still a mystery for me why my brain decided to skip R.
That's great.
Our brains are mysterious things. All right, okay, so now the numbers of these resistors. Let me write them separately. Int. Yeah, we'll write that here. So R1 equals to 6 ohms. R2 equals...
Okay, so I'm going to pause right away and make some guesses here. So immediately I see a very simple relationship between the voltage and the resistance value he wrote down. Because I was wondering whether this was going to be a problem that led to math you can kind of do in your head. And my guess is it will, because honestly, it's pretty rare in so-called real life that people use resistors whose resistance is so small. So in fact, the only time I typically see numbers this small is to make the math easy, right? So I actually wrote some code once that could solve any circuit, really. You just had to be able to type in where everything was connected. It was basically a node solver. And I realized I could use it to just tweak numbers until I had integer values for everything. And so I would put in 24, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and just see what happened. I wanted integer values for everything so that there would be no round off errors and people could possibly do the math in their head. And of course, my first guesses usually weren't, but I could usually look at the decimal values that were showing up and say, okay, there's a divide by 3 somewhere. Let me just multiply all these numbers by 3 and see what happens. And I would raise all the resistances up by 3 or 7, whatever I could tell the decimal equivalent that was showing up. And bam, I could usually land, essentially always, I could land at a place where every single thing you put in was an integer and all the currents were integers, so that then we could do it in our, on the top of our head. We might not need calculators, and there would be no round-off errors. Because round-off errors drive students crazy, right? Because when you say things like, verify that the current that flowed through R3 is equal to the sum of the currents through these two, and the way you did the math, you had a slightly different round-off, as you did these two, and you add them up, and you get a slightly wrong answer here. And students think, well, is that meaningful or not? And it's so I have found that just getting rid of that is useful. However, in the lab, it's never integers, so I'm not 100% sure that's as useful. So that's my prediction, is that based on the fact, number one, he said he made up this problem. Number two, so far we have integers, and they have a simple multiplying factor. And number three, they're super small values. My guess is these turn out to be integers. Let's see.
12 ohms, R3, 4, and R4, R5. R5 equals 2 ohms.
Okay.
Right? Okay, so that's the circuit. And the question is, you remember, analyze this circuit. So what does it mean, analyze?
Well, that's cool. Look at this. That's really great. He just kind of carries it around with him. Love that. And now I'm loving what he's doing too, right? So he's reaching out. He's like, okay, remember, okay, we got a problem. Deep breath. What are the things we've learned how to do? Okay, we need to analyze it. What are we going to do?
Analyzing circuit full of resistors. Again, circuit trinity. In this case, now it's 3 different parameters. R, I, delta V. If you know those, you know everything about this circuit. In this case, resistances are given, so it means that we need to find potential differences and currents. So potential differences across each of these resistors and currents across each of those, through each of those resistors. So we need to find, let me write it here. So find I1, 2, 3,
And 5.
5.
That's so funny. It's so funny because he can so easily just correct it right now.
And then delta V's 1, 2, 3,
And 5.
5. Actually, the missing resistor adds some flavor to the problem.
I really like how comfortable he is with the students. I'm wondering if we have.
When everything is smooth and nice.
I'm wondering if we don't have any students in the shot because they know that it's being recorded and so no one sits there, or if it's just a much larger classroom than he needs for this class.
It's Friday, which is black.
Oh, that reminds me, my tea's been steeping too long.
All right. Okay, so let's start analyzing. So, and you remember the steps. First, you need to simplify the circuit to the simplest possible, and then find something. We'll see what can be found, and then we will start moving, and everything, the whole analysis is over here and over there in these two red boxes, red boxes.
Cool.
So let's start.
I think I'm just going to skip ahead just a little bit here.
Series or in pair. Any. R5. It's a nice.
Okay, so he's asking how.
So, okay, guys, you make me feel bad. Right? So R5.
Oh, funny.
Guys,
but I love how he's interacting with the audience. Okay, so he's combining those two
again,
first.
So why are they is going to be
Okay,
exactly.
I'm just skipping ahead here because I really want to know if it's
Comparable,
integers or
again,
not.
why potential differences across these two. Making two transformations in one step.
So once again, let me back up just a second. Once again, it's super interesting to have the students notice that these are in series because I think the equivalent resistance of this is also in series. And so I mean, from an efficiency perspective, it'd be easier to do these down here first, but there's nothing wrong with combining these. Let's see if we can just do this math in our head. So the resistance is going to be less than either one of these. So 1/2 plus 1/4 is, so that's going to be, so that's not going to be an integer. This is going to be, what, 18. This is going to be, what, 19 and a half? No. So we have 1/4 it's 3/4, it's 4/3, 1 1/3. It's like 19 1/3. Yeah, it's not going to be integers. Interesting.
Also, we're making two transformations in one step. Yeah.
All right, let's get to the math here.
Activity.
Let's get to the math.
Right. So there will be some.
Right. Look at that. Oh, let's go back. So definitely some post-processing here. So he said, let's listen. Let's go back another 5 seconds. So hear what he says.
The resistor with less resistance, right? So there will be some split.
Interesting. All right, keep going. Let's find the math. It's got to be in here somewhere.
R3, 5 and R.
Cool.
2.
Okay.
Of course, subscripts are self-explanatory.
And then he's going to do the math on those.
R3, 5 equals to R3 plus R5.
Oh, you know what? I was misreading these things. I was using the wrong number, so it's not. Maybe it is. So that's going to be 6. And then.
And
is that going to be 4?
Parallel. Okay, I don't like that, but that's life. 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2.
Oh, so maybe. Sorry, I can't do this math in my head. So 1, 6, so we have
and I like
2 12ths and 1 12th is 3 12ths. Yeah, so it's 4. So we've got 6 and 4 is 10. So not quite integers. It's going to be 2.4 amps.
Okay, so now, of course, you can bring to the common denominator or whatever you feel like. So R1, 2, I will just write down the answer. It will be 4 ohms.
Which is less than either one. So that's one of the things I always ask my students. The answer should be less than either one of these. You heard me before when I mistook 3 and 4 as being the ones in parallel. It has to be less than either one of these. So I guessed 4, and then I quickly realized, okay, 1 12th and 2 12ths is 3 12ths. So invert that, and it's 4. I'm curious how many of you guys if you see 12 and 6, you would have said 4 right away. So let's see. It ends up being 2/3 of the small one. So it would have been 2/3 of 2 if it had been these. So I don't know if that's easy. It ends up being 1/3 of the big one. That's maybe even easier to do. Turns out to be 1/3 of the big one when you have a resistor and it's double, so it's 4/3. Huh. Okay, well, I think I'm going to stop here. I think there's some really, really, really interesting things going on in this video. He never tripped over the cord, so that's awesome, although maybe post-processing he edited that out. But I love the setup. I love how he was talking with his students. I love the colors. I don't understand why he called it R5, but I loved how he joked about it with the students. And it seemed like, he's really having them use the tools that they have slowly developed to be able to do a problem like this. All right. Well, I hope everyone has a great day, and remember, physics teachers are awesome.